Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Of course, we're going to bring you another great episode as we always do. My name is Jonah Lupton, and I am your host. So today we have the co-founder of a company called Galavantier, and the actual website will be in the show notes. So hopefully you're clicking on that right now so you can see what they do. But essentially, they are a travel site or a travel destination site that puts packages together for people to some of the top cities and nightlife destinations in the U.S. And I'm not sure if they're expanding international, but that's going to be one of the questions I ask our guest in a second. So Marko is the founder, co-founder. They've raised about $6 million from some very credible investors. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And let's welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Thanks, Jonah. Happy to be here, and hello to all your listeners.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. So I guess the question is, what exactly does Galavantier do?
Well, really what we do is we sell fun. We're based here in Las Vegas, city of entertainment. And what we do is we really focus on bringing those experiences, those amazing experiences that you may see on TV or on reality series, TV shows, where people are in the nightclubs and they have bottle service, and it's one heck of an experience. And we really connect the customer with the hotel and the venue to ensure that they have, the most memorable experience they can have with the dollars that they're paying.
Cool. And you started the company in Vegas approximately, I guess, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. How has that business model changed over time?
Well, when we very first started, we were really kind of looking. We're all over the place in travel, right? We were selling hotels, shows, basically a full service, OTA, which is known as an online travel agency. And what we really realized is that where the big problem was in what product was inaccessible, and that was nightlife. There just wasn't a lot of information out there. Pricing wasn't readily available. And the idea, if you think you're coming to a city like Las Vegas or New York and you're planning a very special occasion, the last thing you want to do is make a reservation, show up, and someone's telling you that there isn't a reservation or they can't accommodate you because they're sold out. So we really solved that problem from that area to where we are connecting people and ensuring they have a great experience here in this city and in other cities that we're located.
Now, Vegas has certainly become the nightlife capital of the U.S. Like you said, it's a destination for millions of people that want to come there and have fun. And I'm sure the Strip has changed a lot in the last 20 years, and you've been there for a big part of that. But how is what's happening in Vegas different from what's happening in some of the other cities? Does your business model vary from city to city, or is it pretty much the same across the board?
Our model here in Las Vegas, we have a little bit more hands-on here, right? So, if you go to a nightclub in another city like Miami or New York, they're going to be busy. There's going to be, walk up to a nightclub, there may be 100 people out there. You walk up to a nightclub here on a Friday or Saturday night, there could be 1,000 people outside of the front door, not yet in. So the model is definitely a little bit different here, where we offer a service to where someone will meet you there on property, meet your guests, and personally walk you through the ropes. So you don't even have to deal with the front door staff or security or someone looking for something. Everything's already done for you. I mean, literally, if you were coming here and you were like, look, I want a table and it's a special occasion, we will go to the full extent of making sure that your table service is set up, anything that you needed that was on that table. So when you arrive, it's done.
This is definitely kind of VIP red carpet service then.
It is. I mean, and what we do is we use, something like this, and something that has been around in Las Vegas. When you offer that kind of human experience to where there's someone there, it's not really a scalable product, right? However, what we've done is been able to build technology to where we've been able to create really essentially the very first search engine that can query all nightlife and day life inventory and pricing in Las Vegas. So you could book a table instantly and still have available options and not have to deal with the hassle of getting into a nightclub.
Gotcha. So does this service kind of replace the hosts and the promoters, or does it work with them?
I wouldn't say it necessarily replaces them. There's certainly that customer service still needs to be there. But what it does do, it allows the consumer to not have to call 10 different people and hear
Right.
10 different things. It allows them to go to one central place that they can trust and rely on. We're the number one booking of nightlife in the city of Las Vegas. We do millions and millions of dollars of bookings into these nightclubs, and because of that and our buying power, you're treated just like you're that person spending that kind of money. So all the venues we have great relationships with, and they definitely take care of all our customers.
See, a service like this would be perfect for someone like myself that might go to Vegas once a year, once every other year with 3 or 4 friends. We want to spend some money. We don't know the promoters and the hosts. I don't want to wait in line for 2 hours or have to, pay the bouncer, give them a wad of cash just to get in the place. So
Exactly.
that's where this service is perfect for us. So how do you guys find someone like me, or how do you find your customers?
We do a lot of inbound marketing. We have a couple different programs. We have an ambassador program, to give you an example. With the growth of the gig economy that we saw, we reached out to roughly around 300 Uber and Lyft drivers, gave them an app that would give them access to this inventory and this pricing, and allow them to pass on a booking link to their passengers if they're interested in going into a nightclub. So you could be in an Uber car and be able to get your table booked. And then online, we utilize AdWords, paid search, organic search. That's really our focus is, and then most importantly is once we've acquired that customer is ensuring that we're giving them the best service that we can, because the strongest and most effective customer acquisition strategy possible, in my opinion, is referrals and word of mouth.
So I just went into Google and typed in Vegas nightlife VIP, and you guys popped up number one with an
Yep,
ad. So I mean, that's how you guys must be driving some traffic as well, right? People typing in search queries like that.
that's right.
Definitely. Okay. And then I can see certainly. Are you able to? Do you guys use any software or services that you're able to insert yourselves into any conversations on social media, maybe Twitter, Facebook, where people are mentioning Vegas nightlife, VIP, bottle service, any of those keywords?
We really don't reach out to people that are just necessarily searching. We don't, we're not trolling anyone. Most of the people, our service speaks for itself, and really we do it all by creating one silo of information, from events to pricing to photos to videos. And we find that people just come to us naturally. And certainly we make that effort out there and spending dollars online. But once people find us, it's amazing how word of mouth really happens, especially in destination cities like Las Vegas or Miami and New York.
Right. I would assume Vegas has been your best city, and you certainly have a long history in Vegas. But what out of the other cities that you guys are currently in, and there's San Diego, Miami, New York. I think I even saw Scottsdale on there. Which of those cities is giving you the most recent growth?
I would say Miami. Miami would be next. Granted, San Diego's really growing in its nightlife community there. LA has always been a big destination for nightlife. Not so much for tourism side of things, more or less the locals. But I would say Miami, anywhere where there's a lot of tourists that are coming in and wanting experiencing the city, those are our best markets. So New York, Miami, and Las Vegas. Las Vegas, of course, being the biggest.
Cool.
I like to the way I like to look at it, Jonas, is Las Vegas is the U.S. to us.
Right. Right. Yeah, if you guys ever come to Boston, let me know. I know some people in Boston that you should probably get to know if you ever decide to make that one of your destination cities. Now, obviously, the nightclub, the nightlife and the nightclubs play a big part in this. But what else do people get as part of the service when they work with Galavantier? Is it also there's hotels, or you guys get into the flights and pickups at airports and all that stuff?
One of the first things, and like I mentioned in 2011 when we started, we offered all of that. Today, our focus is nightlife
Okay.
and day life. So day clubs and nightlife. Now, say you're booking nightlife with us and you want and need transportation to pick you up from the airport to your hotel. We're there to help you and book it for you. If you need show tickets, we're happy. But our first focus of selling and taking care of the customer is nightlife
Gotcha.
and day
And
life.
when did you guys raise your first round of outside capital?
In 2011. In
Okay.
2011 was the first time we ran. Yep.
And then you guys have raised more money since then?
Correct. Yeah. In 2011, we got our first seed round, which was 500,000. And when we started the company, I actually started the company out of the casita of my backyard at my house, which is a little tiny guest house. And I had left being in the nightlife industry for nearly 20 years here in Las Vegas and helping build many of and opening and running many of these nightclubs. I was like, okay, enough's enough of that working in there. I was wanting to build a family, and it wasn't conducive with me working in a nightclub every night. So I basically ripped apart my casita in the backyard, put some banquet tables in there, and put my computer on there and started there. And by the end of summer of 2011, I was able to get secure a $500,000 seed round.
So that's almost like the new, cooler version of the garage in Silicon Valley.
Exactly, especially here in Las Vegas.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of Jewel and host of the Startup Sense podcast. At Jewel, we help entrepreneurs and startup founders build, launch, and grow their companies by providing superior technology, marketing, and consulting services. We help clients of all sizes, budgets, and industries. We put our clients in the best position to raise capital, grow revenues, hire employees, and maximize their profits. For more information or to set up a free consultation with our team, please visit our website at jool.net. That's JOOL.net. How did your background kind of play into this? I mean, some of the connections that you developed over the last 10, 15, 20 years, however long you've been in Vegas, did those help you really get this company off the ground?
Yeah, my first seed investor, actually, I met while I was running the Ghost Bar at the Palms Hotel. And his name is Chris Kelly. He's the former chief privacy officer of Facebook. And I was lucky enough through that time where he was just joining with essentially the small team of Facebook in the very, very beginning. We're talking like 2004. And, you know, he was a super nice guy. He believed in me. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what a software engineer was. And he said to me, he's wanting me to learn about technology. And I went out to Palo Alto and I got to meet lots of great people. And I was fascinated with it. And my first thing touching technology, other than my phone and my remote control to my TV at home, was reaching out to iTunes and saying, hey, why don't we create an iTunes theater? And as we were building the Pearl Theater at the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas, which is the concert hall, I was able to get iTunes interested enough to where it did become the first iTunes theater, along with the Palms, and we would film concerts, which you could purchase on iTunes and download them.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at Chris Kelly's resume on Crunchbase, and it says that he was the chief privacy officer at Facebook from 2005 to 2009. So I'm sure he must have made a nice chunk of cash. And then how did you meet some of your other investors?
You know, through the years of just, Tim Poster, who's the former chief operating officer of the Wynn Hotel, he started a company called Travelscape, which a lot of people are familiar with in the travel industry, which later kind of became a big part of Expedia. And I had followed them, Tim Poster, for many years. As a native of Las Vegas, I watched these guys start this company in the late 90s. And, eventually got to the point where I called them up and I said, listen, you've inspired me all these years, and this is what I've built, and I really need your help. And he just didn't come with his help. He came with a check as well.
So what's been the most difficult thing? I mean, I know you guys have kind of changed the business model. I'm sure that was a tough decision. But what else? What other challenges have you guys run into along the way?
Well, change is constant. If I've learned anything, especially in the world of technology, change is constant, and you have to really stay ahead and be really smart about what you're doing. I think some of the things that I've learned were, you don't have to build everything from scratch. I know that, engineers, software engineers like to build things, but sometimes you have to look elsewhere and say, is there a product out there that someone has built that's their focus, and can we leverage that product, use it, learn from it, and if at one point that we feel that we need to build it, then let's build something similar to it or something that fits our needs. But let's not always build something from scratch because that takes a lot of time, and a lot of time costs a lot of money and can slow things down. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned. The other thing I learned from the very beginning, was invest into, invest into that B team. When you bootstrap a business, as I said to you, I started the casita. Every dollar counts, and it's good to be conscious and know that, hey, listen, I have to conserve dollars and make them go as far as I can. But what you don't want to do is sacrifice on your team. You don't want to just find, a front UI, UX guy who you could afford, because that's really important. The last thing you ever need is a hornet's nest of sloppy code that you have to kind of work through. So I think if anything I learned in my earlier years was really identify the people who are going to drive a tremendous amount of value and invest them and pay them what they deserve.
So funny you say that.
In other areas, don't get business cards, don't get stationery, don't get signs on the side of your building. Who cares about what kind, buy a used couch off of Craigslist, but invest into your people.
Yeah, I think a lot of us made that mistake, or I made that mistake in my first company. Was you're just so excited as soon as you get, you incorporate the business, you think that you've actually done something successful, and you go out and celebrate, and you buy all the swag, the T-shirts, the hats, the business cards, and it's just a waste of money. I mean, I think we've all learned those lessons. And what you said in terms of hiring the right people, my guest yesterday that said the same thing. They were trying to conserve capital in the beginning, and they went out and hired that, the C-level software developer, and it was just a disaster. I mean, everything he coded essentially had to be fixed afterwards. So
and we all make the mistake, right? We all make that mistake, but sometimes it's good to be reminded that that's really important at the very beginning.
Do you have a favorite day or period, in the company's growth that you can tell us about?
Oh, there's so many of them. The idea that, when we first started, Jonah, how did you book? I mean, you couldn't even book things. You could call a hotel, and it was so difficult. So now to be able to have the technology that allows users to search all the inventory within a city and get pricing right then and there, that's pretty exciting. Raising rounds has been exciting. Let's not say raising money is exciting. Hitting the pavement is not so fun, but if you could handle rejection and you can keep going, the more rejection you get, the closer you are to that money. So there's so many great things from partnerships that we've been able to create. We're partners with Marriott Global, so all their reward members that are coming here can also utilize experiences that we offer that are through Marriott. So many great things. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many great things that we've had over the time. It's been a lot of fun, but you have to roll with the punches too, and just keep fighting to live another day.
Absolutely. And how big is your team right now?
Right now, we're about a team of 14.
Oh, okay. That's pretty big. I mean, how is that split up in terms of like technical talent and salespeople and operations and customer support?
Eight of them are in the development side of things, and then the rest are administrative sales. When we very first started, we had a larger sales team, but we've also been able to get to the point to now where we have most of our bookings are occurring via Galavantier.com right online. When you're booking things that are more, the products that we sell, to give you an idea from a price point, an entry level table at a nightclub or a day club could start at around $1,000, and that's pretty pricey. But they actually go up to about $30,000-$40,000.
Jesus.
So there's times that we're booking clients that are booking with us who have the means to have these type of experiences that are spending $100,000 and $140,000 in just two days.
Damn, my God. Okay, so that actually leads me into a good question then, is how do you guys actually make money off of this?
So the way we worked everything out is we're partners directly with the hotels and the venues ourselves. We have about 200 partnerships in Las Vegas. And between those, like very similar to the travel industry that operators use when it comes to hotels, most people like Expedia and other OTAs out there have net rates on products. So we essentially have net rates on products, or we have a commission that the hotel is turning around and sending us for the business that we send.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what about the ambassadors? You mentioned that as part of your growth strategy. How do those guys make money?
We give them 10% of the total spend. So let's just say, for instance, someone books a table for $2,000, and that's the subtotal. So that excludes taxes and fees and stuff like that. So just the subtotal of $2,000. We pay that ambassador $100 for that booking. They could potentially make up to $200. It just depends on what venue they're booking that at.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty fair. I mean, for a lot of those people, it's just extra income, right, for themselves. I mean, they're driving around making their money, and this is just one way to add more income to their pockets.
Yeah, lots of our ambassadors, which we have about 300 of them that are Lyft and Uber drivers here in the city. They can go out for a day, make $150, and then turn around, book a table, make another 150, $200, and that's a good day for them.
That is a very good day. I mean, you probably break that down per hour, and they're probably making 25, $30 an hour at least.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What we did is we more or less just gave power to the drivers since they're there with people, and essentially just made them more or less concierge, but gave them actionable tools to be able to sell and book those clients that they have in the back of their cars.
So I've never been to Arizona, so I've never been to Scottsdale. What is going on down there that attracts you guys to the area?
Well, they have a great nightlife community
Oh,
down
okay.
there. They have a lot of, yeah, they have a great, not as heavy from a tourism standpoint. People aren't saying, Scottsdale's the destination for me to go to
Right.
visit nightclubs. However, it's a great community. They have great nightclubs. And, the reality is there's a lot of business travelers and a lot of deals happen in these nightclubs. So a lot of people that are traveling, having meetings at the end of the day, they don't want to go to a nightclub, whether it's in Scottsdale or San Diego or San Francisco, where they're standing in line or standing at the bar, getting bumped into. They want their own private area, a table that they can sit down and have a conversation and potentially close a deal.
So I'll throw out this scenario and let me know if this happens or not. I go to Vegas. I use Galavantier. I book an amazing experience and have the best time of my life for a weekend. But while I'm in some of these clubs, sitting at a VIP table, spending a bunch of money, the host or the promoter comes up to me and gives me his business card and says, "Hey, next time you come here, let me know." Like, how do you guys prevent that from cannibalizing some of your business?
Well, it's difficult to prevent. So we don't try to fight that. If anything, what we try to do is still provide that level of service pre and post your experience when you're booking with Galavantier. And what we find is a lot of people just come back to us because, granted, the nightclub is one experience. A lot of times our customers do book the nightclub and then they book a show or we help them with their hotels. So we really become that one source, that modern day travel agency that's leveraging technology to
Right.
kind of
Okay.
make that the planning process simple for there. And so a lot of people do come to us. And the way I say it to the nightclubs and the day clubs and in many of our partners is, listen, I do think that you should introduce yourself, and I believe you should continue that extension of service that we're providing. I believe if we do our job right, they're going to come back to us. But if they come to you, then we've done our job and delivered you a new customer. And our goal is to continually bring new customers. The great thing
Uh,
about our industry, Jonah, and what we're doing, just like you or I don't personally frequent nightclubs as much as I used to. Certainly, I lived in
Same
every day
here.
of my life. But you know what? There's another generation of people that are. And so there's constantly new customers. There's constantly people turning 21 years old. So there's always new customers.
What are you guys currently hiring for any positions at the company?
Right now, we just finished up some hiring. We just hired a couple of UI and front end developers, and I think we're good right now. But when we first started, we had to build this team. We started with a small team, then our team got larger. And then when we got larger, we were able to see the areas that we said, okay, someone's doing this. How do we build technology around making this more efficient? How do we take away from saying eliminating potential errors? And so what we've been able to do is really build a lot of efficiencies within our systems to where we don't need a team of 20 people or 30 people. I like to look at it and say we have a small team that does twice. If we have 14 people now, we're really doing the work of 30.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I can see where it's certainly a technology company, but there's a lot of personal interaction that needs to happen. Once people land in one of these cities, they want to be able to probably meet someone if necessary, or have a contact person. It sounds like you guys are providing that. Any plans to expand to new cities or even go international?
Our focus is this, and I think that that's one thing. In the very beginning, is you have this big macro vision of what you could do, and really we've just become more laser focused year after year. So really, it's just continually being better here in the city that is our home base, and then also the markets like New York and Miami are our targets. So those are our three markets that we focus on most.
Gotcha. What else do we need to know about the company that you haven't had a chance to tell us yet? Anything exciting going on right now, or talk to us about your 2017 plans?
You know, we're really excited. We, as I kind of mentioned earlier, we had built essentially the very first search engine that you can identify pricing, inventory, and book it right then and there instantly. So we've used that product internally for our sales staff. So they're speaking to someone, they can search, find out that information, and provide it to the customer. Now we're actually plugging that into the front of Galavantier.com. Very similar to when you go to Expedia and you put in your travel dates and what you're looking for, and more or less queries and searches, all that pricing. We're going to give that now to the users so they can see exactly what their options are and simply just book it.
So since you guys are essentially a technology or software company, what are some of the metrics that you like to look at?
Well, certainly I like to look at, how much time people are spending. Are they going down? Are we doing our best to uh, more or less the less actions that someone needs to make to get down to the funnel? Those are really important things to us. Engagement is an important metric to us. And what I mean by that is, so, someone's reached out to us, are we communicating with them via chat? Are we communicating with them via email, text, any of those things? Those are really important metrics for us. And then, of course, conversion rate is ultimately one of our most important metrics that we look at. We don't really look at things like bounce, and, of course we look at them. I don't want to say we don't, but we don't really look at, we want to know, okay, are people digesting the information? Or did we just not provide them with the information?
Right.
So those are kinds of the things, and it's like anything else, right? If I go to a place and someone's selling me something, if someone's a little unsure of what they're selling me, I'm going to probably move on. But if I'm speaking to someone or someone's communicating information to me that makes me say, these guys have their T's crossed, their I's dotted, then I feel good about that purchase. And that's really important because we're not selling something online that's $39.
What do you think? Yeah, I mean, oh, for sure. I mean, right, you're talking thousands and even to the tens of thousands. It looks like your web traffic spiked pretty dramatically back in December. What were you guys doing differently back then, or any idea what drove that new traffic?
New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right. Makes total
New Year's
sense.
Eve in Las Vegas.
That's the biggest. That's your biggest day of the year, I assume.
Actually, our biggest times of the year is Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend. Those are our biggest.
Okay.
It used to be when Floyd Mayweather fought as well, right?
Really?
Those were huge. However, it sounds like he's going to fight again, so we'll see what happens out of that. Those are always big weekends in Vegas. But one of the things that I was going to mention was, when we started, we had to learn, and that's probably the biggest expense you think of growing a company, is really learning what is it that the customer is doing, and to be building tools out there. For instance, we are selling products that are can be upwards of $10, $20, $30,000. Well, not everyone has a credit card to charge $10,000 or $20,000 on. So one of the things that we built was like split the bill, which allows you. So Jonah, if you were coming here with 10 of your friends, you don't have to worry about putting that entire 10 grand on your credit card and hoping that everyone's going to pay you back equally and fairly. We've set it up to where you can just pay your portion, and then from
Oh, yeah,
there,
right.
your other 9 friends can pay their portion, which really makes it nice because once people get here, they don't have to worry about pulling, any money out of their pocket. At the end of the night inside the nightclub, they don't have to worry about paying their check. Their check's already been paid.
So there's actually a bunch of companies out there that are doing the exact same thing. They've created, product or service that does that. You can split the bill with your friends, but you guys decided to actually create your own from scratch
That's right. That's right.
just to
And we
save some money.
split. It's called, yeah, and it does well. We charge a very small fee to use that payment system, but people love it. I just looked at a reservation booking that came in last night for around $12,000, and I could already see there's almost 30 people paying towards that.
Right. No, I mean, I can think back to when I used to get a lot of VIP tables in Boston, in my 20s, and I would use, I knew the promoters the closest, so I would call them up and I would book the table, and usually when they would put it on my card, debit card, whatever it might be, and then at the end of the night, I'm looking for my 7 friends that went in with me to try to get money from everybody, and they're either too drunk or they've already split or whatever the case might be. And
Yeah.
I ate a lot of that money, and we're only talking hundreds or even low thousands. I can't imagine, once you get into the tens of thousands, you don't want to run into that problem.
Yeah, and this summer, one of the things that we're really excited about, so we're hoping is that you'll be able to come to Galavantier.com and book instead of paying the thousands of dollars right then and there. We're setting it up to where you pay a simple small, $50 or $100 that just secures your reservation, and that's refundable as long as you arrive to the venue at your reservation time. To make it really simple, and that really truly will give it that open table effect for booking nightlife and day life in Las Vegas and the other cities that we provide for.
Cool. That's pretty much that's in terms of questions, that's really all I had for you. We've kind of gone the 30 minutes that I try to keep this under. So, with that said, I guess unless you have any closing thoughts, we'll probably wrap up here.
I would just have to say that to all the entrepreneurs out there, and I know we all experience our own successes and our own sometimes what we consider failures, but I look at it as the odds are always going to be against you, and to just get over it and keep plugging away. If you think and see success, back it up with data. And if the data says that it is success, then keep going. If it doesn't, don't second guess it. The data is telling you the truth.
I guess I'll close with this question. What is your favorite thing about being a CEO, and what does it mean to you to be able to wake up and provide jobs for a dozen or so people every day?
Helping people grow. I think growing up in Las Vegas, one of the things that I saw in workplaces where people would come, they'd get a job, and they would be an admin, and they would sit there and just do admin work all day. I'm a big believer in taking that admin and saying, okay, let's take this admin and let's let them look at financials today. Because if I can help grow their skill set while they're here, then they're not just going to be champions here, but they're going to be continuing to be champions when they go on. And that's probably the biggest thing that motivates me every morning, is helping people grow.
Awesome. Well, it was a real pleasure speaking with you. If I ever get out to Vegas again, we'll definitely have to sit down and talk business. Thanks for spending some time with us, and thanks for being so
Thanks for having me.
honest and transparent.
You got it. Have a good day. Thank you, Jonah. Bye-bye.
You too, man. Appreciate it. Bye.